Politics.
For me, it is what I call Iberberism. I beg your pardon. Go and search for it, my friend.
It's current affairs.
4 years course, metamorphosing into 6 years.
And news
that affects you.
What an academic academic in their leadership rococo, leadership brababare.
It's all the serious stuff,
but with a light-hearted twist.
I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
And I'm Aghogho.
Join us 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday.
Right here.
On Hard Facts. On Hard Facts.
Hello, Lagos. Good afternoon. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts.
Shaku Maku, everyone. I'm Aghogho Oboh, and it is a great day for us to have great discussion.
We're hoping that you're not stuck in too much traffic because of the NBA conference. We got here in time because Aghogho and I have to be here daily to give you what we promise, which is the best insights into today's most important topics. We bring them to you, we break them down, we give you the facts, and you can form an informed opinion. And if you missed any of our shows from last week or this week, catch them online. Facebook, Nigeria Info FM, Twitter, Nigeria Info FM, and YouTube, also Nigeria Info FM. We have a great show for you today. We're starting with the big three. The Lagos House of Assembly probes Oboh over 45 billion naira for buses. That's one of the stories on the big three today. And court declines to hear Showore's application for release. Nigerians pay 400 billion naira in bribes every year, according to ICPC. These stories are coming up in a few minutes. On the glass ceiling, I'm talking about household chores and how they are divided between husbands and wives. I want to get to the root of how and why we see chores as the job of one person and not the other person, simply because of gender. Now, before the glass ceiling, we'll have Rally Academy on the show between 45 and 4 p.m. Between 3:45 and 4 p.m. They're going to be teaching you how you can cash out in the forex industry. So pay attention to that program when it comes around. Immediately after that, we'll have that debate about house chores. What are we doing on the Big Hard Fact today?
Yeah, so on the Big Hard Fact, we're going to report dated sometime 12th of July. But 98 million Nigerians now living in multi-dimensional poverty. And we're going to be speaking with someone from the organization that put out that report, which is the United Nations Development Program, to help us understand the ramifications of what it means to have nearly 100 million people living in
multi-dimensional poverty. Quite the concept, huh? Yeah. As usual, throughout the show, we'll be bringing you the latest updates from the worlds of news, sports, and entertainment. But let's start things off with the big three.
This is the Big Three.
The Big Three on Hard Facts
on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
You know what to expect on the big three stories that everyone is talking about right now. Does Oboh have a case to answer? That's the first question. And secondly, should Showore be released? Finally, how much in bribes did you pay last year? Will you be honest with us and tell us? Let's get into these stories. The Lagos State House of Assembly has set up a committee to investigate the purchase of 820 mass transit buses for 45 billion naira by the administration of former Governor Akinwumi Oboh. According to a motion passed by the House, the money for the purchase of the buses was never approved by the legislature, who in fact rejected the idea in budget after budget. The House is claiming that Oboh, by making the purchase without approval, broke the law. The House is also looking into the cost of the buses. Aghogho, first the EFCC searches his house. Now the House of Assembly is probing him.
Yeah, they say when it rains, it pours, and that's exactly what it has meant for Akinwumi Oboh, the former governor of Lagos State. And what is of great interest to the lawmakers as they begin the probe is the fact that it does appear that he overlooked the rejection of this proposal and went ahead to get those buses into Lagos. And we understand that some of those buses now, at least if I get a total number of buses now stuck at the ports, 520 awaiting clearance from the bonded warehouse and the port at Apapa. And who's going to bear the cost of this one? It's unfortunately taxpayers who's got their monies in the first instance. So the governor isn't in town. He'll probably will have to answer questions, maybe directly at the final turn of that probe going on by the State Assembly. But at least you will have to hear words from the Commissioner for Finance during his administration, some other government officials who were in the know, the Accountant General, Procurement Officer, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Transportation, at least the conversation that happened during plenary yesterday. All of them most likely will be summoned to explain just how on earth this happened. What is of big interest here also too is the fact that they came up with this plan together with what was going on at those of you familiar with the Oshodi bus interchange. This was supposed to be part of the idea that you will have those buses run through there. So there's the argument I've seen. People say it's such a great idea online that we should have had those buses there. But the fact that he went against the permission of the State Assembly makes it a bit difficult for him at this time. But that's it.
And the power of the purse is one that a lot of people don't fully understand. A governor or a president cannot spend money on any project they like, even if it is a good project. Every 1 naira that the executive spent must only be in the exact way that the legislature approved of. So as a governor, if you tell the legislature, give me 1 billion naira to build schools, and they give you, and you now realize, you need to spend that, you need to spend 100 naira from that 1 billion to build a road or a hospital. You cannot do that. You cannot divert that money without first asking the House of Assembly. And they're saying Ambode never got our approval. He asked us and we said no. So let's ask you if you think the House is taking the right steps. Do you think that governors respect the legislature's power of the purse? 01277 0993 01277 1993 01277 2993 and 01277 That's our first story on the Big Three today. We're going to take 2 calls only and then move on to the second story because we need to take that call from Raleigh Academy. And we have Devo in Lekki. He's our first caller. Hello, Devo.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sandra and Aghogho.
Welcome.
Well, good afternoon.
Yeah, one quick take on the Ambode's case. I've always reiterated my commitment to him. I really like him.
Okay.
But the truth is that this thing he did, he was wrong. But the truth is that we know that Ambode was not in the pilot in charge of the vessel or the plane that was flying. There was someone that was calling the shot, which is Tinubu. We should not shy away from calling the names. And the truth is that he is even more better because the project he put are more visible and vibrant. The only project that I saw Fashola put that really I admire is the Ikoyi Link Bridge. But of the truth, Ambode has put up very huge project, especially even look at the way he put the Lekki traffic. I remember how we used to get home on time, go home. I know hours that people spend. Imagine you are living in Epe, how you even get there. But the way he just used his concept. So me, I really liked him. I like him. And the truth is that it was against all odds. And let me tell you the truth. You as journalists should always pen the picture out because those House of Assembly, someone is controlling them and they were even making work difficult for him. We know how he suffered before he even got the budget. You remember, towards the ending days of his regime, we knew how, in fact, Tinubu had to be the one to call a meeting and then they now resolve. And these are facts. The man they just tied him down in one corner. He had projects. In fact, someone will have to agree that he will complete the project. Imagine now, look at, you go to City Mall in Onikonde, see the National Museum. Look at the Museum of Lagos. You cannot compare.
Would love you to stay on the fact of the matter because by the time you keep going round and round, you probably would forget what the entire
but
story
all I'm just
about.
saying that he need to come back and answer. But the truth is that our government always have a way of frustrating you, and that they will always do to him too.
Devo, thanks for calling and sharing your thoughts.
Devo.
Anthony is in Lekki, says there's no sincerity on the part of the House of Assembly. What do you mean, Anthony?
What I mean is that we were not in the moon when that project was conceived.
Okay.
In fact, they were part of the people that welcomed Mr. President. to come and commission some bus stop and kick off the project. They didn't raise any eyebrow. All it would have taken the governor is just a supplementary budget, even if it's not covered by the budget.
Well,
So
you're looking at two different things now. The bus interchange, there's
It's
approval
the
for
way
that.
they play politics
But-
in Nigeria.
but-
Politics with bitterness.
Good, but the buses did not get approval, is what the State Assembly is saying.
How would I know? Have you heard from the governor?
The buses are at least 500,
It was huge at the time.
520 buses are at the
let's hear
port
from-
right now.
Yes.
Good.
And
So
they were supposed to come in badges. We are aware of
now,
that.
this is the argument now. Those buses were paid for with taxpayers' money. The Lagos State government
We are then
cannot...
not there to oversight the governor where we are staying.
Now, the Lagos State government will have to take possession of those buses with our money, unfortunately. And there's still the bigger argument here. Is it the business of a state government to purchase buses? The BRT and the LAC buses were purchased on a PPP arrangement. You understand? So there's still the argument that when we get in those buses, the state government cannot own those buses. We'll have to now disburse those buses at an agreed price to private owners. So it's unfortunate, but that's what we're facing here.
Okay.
Anthony, thanks for calling and sharing your thoughts. Now, when you do call us, that's the last call we're taking for now. We'll move on to our second story. But when you call, you can talk about any of the stories on the Big Three. A federal high court has declined to hear an application by the lawyers of presidential candidate Omoyele Sowore for his release from DSS detention. The court said that since Shore's case was before another federal high court, it could not make a ruling, since this would mean interfering with a court of coordinate jurisdiction. Sowore is on trial for treason over organizing the Revolution Now protests. DSS asked the court for and received permission to hold him for 45 days in order to conduct its investigation. So he stays in detention. Aghogho.
Yeah, most likely, and this will, right from when this began, it was obvious that the federal government had in play what they hope to do, because as early as the first week of his been kept in prison, they were seeking for an extension for another 45 days. So it's most likely that this will drag on, and whatever the intention was, I've heard in several quarters that the hope was that this will serve as a warning or make him a scapegoat. Most likely this is what they intend to do with the Sowore case. So it's back. The case, so it's going back to where it was originally began, and it's something I hear many times. The lawyers say they try and avoid as much as possible having several cases, but stick to just one court where you can have all of the rulings and the judgments with one matter rather than having spread in different places. So they keep trying, I'm sure.
But this application by Femi Falana, Shore's lawyer, it seems a bit strange. The first interesting thing was that he was asking one high court to override another high court. I don't think I've seen that happen before. Normally, you go to a superior court to compel the lower court. And the second interesting thing about Falana's request was the reason he gave for why the DSS should release Sowore. Falana said the DSS does not have the right to hold Sowore because DSS does not exist. Yes, I know. He said that there is no law in Nigeria that creates an organization named the Department of State Services, or DSS. Of course, you and I know that the DSS is not their official name. The official name is the SSS, State Security Service. They started using DSS in press statements in 2011. But the Terrorism Prevention Act, TPA, the law under which Sowore was arrested, lists the agencies that can make arrests for terrorism. And the name listed is DSS, not SSS, the fake name. So Falana is using a technicality to say that SSS does not exist, and that DSS does not exist, and SSS doesn't have the power under the TPA, to do what it is, to do what it's doing. So it's pretty clever legal work, but I wonder if it's going to stand up in court. We want to ask what you think about the Sowore matter. Should Sowore be freed until the investigation is over? How do you feel about the government arresting him before having evidence? How do you feel about the SSS using a fake name and that fake name being written into the Terrorism Prevention Act? Is it no big deal, or is it a sign of unseriousness? 01277 0993, 01277 1993, 01277 2993, and 01277 3993. We're taking 2 calls again, and then we'll move on to the final story. We've got Salvation in Ikoyi. Well, we're streaming on Facebook, so leave us comments on Facebook, and we're going to take them as we go along. Hello, Salvation.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead,
go
Salvation.
ahead.
Hello?
Salvation, we can hear you. Hello. Oh, that's rather unfortunate. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes,
My name
welcome.
is Titus.
Hello, Titus. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Yeah. I want to talk on Amboda and the State Assemblies.
Yes, go ahead.
You see, I'm not talking to
Sandra, yes.
Sandra, yeah. You see, one thing that they want to rubbish Amboda.
Okay.
They know what because Tinubu and Fashala, they don't want Ambode to gain what they have gained as governor of Lagos State, and it cannot work. Ambode brought the boss. They said there was not the assembly didn't approve the portions of the boss, and they are using the boss today. You see, what Ambode have put on the ground, visibly what people are seeing, and people are commending Ambode. But this sort of the gang want to rubbish him. It cannot work.
It cannot work, Titus.
It cannot work. Yes, it cannot work.
Okay, thanks for calling and sharing that with us. Richards is in Orile. He says the federal government influences decisions made by the court. What do you mean, Richards?
Hello?
Yes,
Sandra?
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, really, as a citizen of Nigeria, since 1999, every government influences decision made by the court. So Sandra was one of the opponents of APC. Now APC is in control, so don't expect him to be free easily. That's what I want to say.
That's all you want to say. Richards, thanks for calling and sharing that with us. Our final story is a top official of the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, saying that Nigerians pay an average of 400 billion naira in bribes every year. Suleiman, who is the principal investigator at ICPC's Anti-Corruption Academy, also repeated the prediction that corruption will consume up to 37% of Nigeria's GDP by the year 2030. 400 billion naira, Aghogho.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Well, I hope they can come in with some more details, because I've been hearing 400 billion. This is 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had 400 billion in 2016. I had it in 2017. So it appears that they're just rehashing old figures and putting it back to us.
Oh, so you think we're paying more?
Yeah, this 400 billion, the last time the report was released, did not include the executive bribes that were being paid. So that will most likely tip this number above where it is. And there's still some questions, fundamental questions they haven't answered, and which they perhaps compare with previous administrations. They suggest that the problems of corruption still have not reduced in terms of who are the biggest bribe takers. The previous reports had the police on top of the pecking order, and after the police you had I think it was customs then. But those agencies at that time denied the report, and if we're still getting this same figures now, it means that the people who put up this report still didn't get a feedback from them to suggest that those numbers have come down. Because I thought if they're going to put out a report now with the NBS, those numbers should have either dropped or they should have increased. But for it to stay the same, it's an indictment, most likely, a lot of researchers will say, on the corruption fight.
On the researchers. When you read what Suleiman was saying, he was talking about Nigerians paying bribes to obtain services, both in the public and the private sector.
Yeah.
And of course, you hear the stories all the time. Someone went to a government office to get a service that should be free and easy to get. People at the office refusing to move the file, or they refuse to find the file, not until you give them something. The academics will call this rent seeking. That's when someone uses their control over a service to extort extort money from you. And Suleiman is calling this bribery. But a lot of Nigerians will say, I wasn't paying a bribe. I was unwillingly extorted. If the people at that office were ready to do the work without extorting me, I would have been happy. But I want to talk about how pervasive it is in our society. It's almost a way of life for us. Suleiman said that 32% of Nigerians who use a service pay a bribe. Let's say that half of Nigerians use services. So we're removing children, the elderly, and a few others. That's 100 million Nigerians, right? That's 100 million naira. So let's say that 30 million people are paying this 400 billion naira a year in bribes. That's about 13,000 naira every year. That's a bit more than 1,000 naira every month. That some Nigerians are paying as bribes somewhere. So let's ask if you have paid up to 13,000 naira in bribes. Did you pay up to that last year? Have you paid up to 1,000 naira in bribes this month? Did you settle anybody? Did somebody force you to settle them? Did policemen demand money from you on the road? What of task force guys? Did somebody in an office force you to pay before they move your file? How much do bribes and avoiding paying bribes affect your life? This is a conversation that we should have on the Big Hard Fact one day, by the way. We've got Frank in Amoa Doffing. No, he's in Amoa Aghogho, I think. Hello, Frank. Oghogho or Aghogho?
Oghogho.
Yes.
Hello, I am calling from
Okay, welcome.
Ambody, I think Ambody is harvesting what he was showing, because when that body came to that government house, Tinubu was using Ambody to fight Fashola then. Then in his resumption, he was trying to play hanky-panky, taking Fashola to putting Fashola on high jump. Hello?
We can hear you.
Putting Fashola on high jump. Now that he has a lot of help with Tinubu now, the same thing is happening.
Oh, that's quite unfortunate. Our last call is from Ufoma. Ufoma is in Aghogho. Hello, Ufoma. Thanks for calling us. Hello.
Okay.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Sandra.
Yes, good afternoon. Go ahead.
Okay, this is from Aghogho. Let me just make a two comment concerning the Shiremi case. I think that I will support the court. Let it remain in prison for another 45 days, because it's not showing a good example. Prevention, if such a person become our Nigeria head of state, is it the way he's going to rule us? So I'm in support of the court. May remain in prison for 90 days. Maybe we gain his sense back. Okay, go back to the issue of Amber. Are you with me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, go back to the issue of the Lagos State House of Assembly. The Lagos State House of Assembly, they are not sincere at all. So they are served, and whosoever is strengthening them against somebody, then if they knew that they are not in support with this boss, somebody boss, at least before the arrival of the boss, they could have made their mind being known to the Lagos State people that this boss that is coming here, they are not in support of it. Now, after the arrival of the boss, the man is not in power, so they are now crying that this was it. At the end of the day, all they are probing will not see the light of the day. So I'm not in support. They are not sincere. Whosoever is also pushing them to do all this thing against them, but at the end of the day, they will not see the light of the day. So
all right,
that's not.
Informer, thanks for sharing your thoughts on the show. Coming up on the other side of 4 o'clock is the glass ceiling. And let's talk about whose job it is to cook and clean and wash plates and take care of the kids at home. Today's glass ceiling, that's what the conversation will be about. I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
And I'm Oboh.
Hard Facts will be right back.